Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome if you're new here. Today we have a full moon, a super moon, full moon in Aquarius. Super moon means the moon is closer to the earth than normal. So if you can, I highly recommend going outside, taking a look at the moon. It's so beautiful, big and bright, wonderful, all those magical feelings. But for your tarot reading today, I have 3 groups for you. You can go ahead and pick by the cards you can see, the number, the sound of my voice, group 1, group 2, or group 3. When you're ready, all the timestamps are below, and I will see you at the reading that you chose. Hi everyone, welcome. For everyone who picked group number 1. So you all pick the card, Dance with Life. Do something to change your energy. So this could mean literally dance, okay? Sometimes when we have stagnant emotions or bottled up emotions, physical movement can help release something, or we can release a block with that. So if dancing calls to you, do that. Going for a walk, any type of movement is good. But this can also be, the metaphorical meaning of dance, right? Like this, like back and forth, this thing's happening. So what am I doing to engage with that, right? Our life is not just about us, and life doesn't exist without us too, right? There's this back and forth. There's just thinking of, it's 2 people dancing together, so this energy of, you can even see on these cards, right? What one person does is affecting the other person. And so just knowing that, this is one of the issues I have with a lot of mainstream law of attraction stuff, is just you are not solely responsible for creating every single thing in your life. And you can't do it without, there's forces that are having an effect on you as well. And so just really thinking about, where have I tried to put too much effort? Where have I tried to, control everything when I can't actually control all of it? So dancing with life, just do something to change your energy. Can be a reminder, do I need to surrender something? Do I need to let something go? Especially with full moon cycles coming to an end, things changing and closing, all of that, right? So you need to do something to kind of change your energy, release something, get some stagnant energy to come out, kind of be more aware of some of these things. And dancing with life, again, it's like this back and flow, this ebb and flow. Also, you can see there's a nice full moon on there for today's full moon. So again, sometimes just dancing, putting music on. You don't have to be like a trained dancer. You can take a dance class if you want, but just even dancing around your home can be very, very therapeutic and comforting for you. But just, kind of surrendering to that dance and letting it be what it needs to be, instead of, trying to force and control. And I just got an image of someone who's really stiff when they're dancing, not like the robot stiff, right? But they're not flowing, they're not going with things, right? And so just the flow that is required to be able to move through life is kind of what I'm hearing too, right? When you start dancing, you don't approach it as let me number these steps and do this. There is a technique, but you have to add your own flow with it. You have to add your own movement with it, the way you want to go forward and do things in that way as well. Okay, I'm going to pick some tarot cards for you guys, and then we'll do some oracle cards for you. Yeah, it's time to do something different, okay? Do something to change your energy, as it said. So we have the 7 of Pentacles, the Knight of Swords, and the 9 of Pentacles. So we have a clear progression from 7 to 9 Pentacles here, right, as you see. And so I feel like this is just taking a moment to turn inward, just what I was saying about, reevaluate my life. What do I want to be doing? What am I doing just out of force of habit, or I feel like I have to do it, or whatever, right? But doing some evaluation around that. Your soul is ready to move. Okay, if you've been not letting yourself move forward, change something, do something different, this is very clear. It's time when you take that moment to reflect and be like, oh, it's time for this thing to be different in my life. It's time for me to do this thing differently. It's time for me to, whatever, right? So this is very clear. It's time to do that, because look at this. Again, we have a natural progression from the 7 to 9 of Pentacles here, but we also have some, this is kind of thinking and contemplating, and then this is just kind of contentment. It's like, oh yeah, I did it, I made it, I'm here, I have all my things. So group 1, if there's anything that's coming up for you while I'm talking around around what you want to let go of, what it's time to change, what it's time to evaluate, what it's time to look at, please do it. Okay, I cannot be any more clear with all of it that it's time for this to happen for you. So releasing, letting go, allowing things to change, do something to change your energy, right? You are ready to go. It's written all over your cards, group one. It's time to do something different. Okay. Okay, then we have the Four of Pentacles, the King of Cups, and the Six of Wands. So yeah, it seems like you're keeping yourself stuck, right? So here we have kind of two very opposing energies. So this is someone who's like, I'm not doing anything. My heart center is covered. I'm not moving. I'm not letting go of anything. I don't want to do anything differently. But then you have the King of Cups right next to it. And this is really about like emotional maturity, emotional mastery, self-awareness, the ability to do these things differently and move forward with that, and then being able to reap rewards from it. So I feel like whatever fear is going on there of just like, oh, I can't do it. I can't get to the other side. I can't make it happen. I can't whatever, right? This is a very clear reminder that yes, you definitely can. You have the tools, the ability, you can trust yourself. You have the wherewithal. You can figure it out, right? That's going on. And then also this energy of just like, and I can be proud of that and how I show up and how I walk through the storm and how I get to the other side, right? All of these things are going to serve me long term with all of that. And what we want is on the other side of our fear. What we're afraid to let go of is actually what is going to grant us freedom if we are brave enough to do that, right? So just really holding space for that and allowing those things to come forward. What I'm hearing is, when you're brave enough to change your life will be brave enough to support you and give you the support and care you need to be able to make things happen for yourself. So yeah, just trusting that and leaning into it. And even if you don't feel like you're ready, what is it? Leap and the net will appear. That's big energy I'm getting for you guys, also group one. I mean, again, more development, okay? More clear progressions going on here. We have the Ace of Swords, Judgment, and the King of Swords. So if you feel like, well, I can't grow or change because I only have these little baby boundaries, I've never dealt with this thing before, I've never had this type of growth before, right? This is very clear. We have the Ace of Swords into the King of Swords. So again, another king, regardless of your gender, just energy of like mastery, clarity, of like, these are my boundaries. This is what works for me. This is what doesn't work for me. And, judgment is about, our feet being held to the fire. It's time for us to show up or put up, it's time for us to shut up or put up, not show up. Okay. It's time for us to show up or shut up. Okay. I think that's what I meant to say, but I think you get what I mean anyway. But so this is just saying that, even if we can't develop and grow if we don't give ourselves like practice with that, right? We can only staying in our comfort zone, we can only develop our boundaries so much, or our emotional intelligence or whatever. We can only develop so much if we are stuck in our comfort zone and stuck in things that feel familiar to us. But when we push ourselves into that new place, into that new growth, into that new thing, and again, we're forced to this judgment, we're forced to show up, we're forced to say, do my actions match my beliefs? Am I acting in integrity? Am I showing up in this way? When we do that, then that's when we, are forged in the fire. And that's when we're able to be like, okay, look at this skill I developed. Look at what I learned from this hard situation. Look at like the growth I got from this, even though I wasn't anticipating it or didn't feel it or, any of that. So this is just a reminder that you don't go from this to this overnight. And you actually get your growth and change and become the next better version of yourself by putting yourself out there and doing something different. And so doing something to change your energy can be a reminder that like, if we want to grow, we have to be uncomfortable, right? You can't grow unless you're uncomfortable. And it's not to the point where, we're shutting down or anything like that, but we can handle usually more than we think, and we can grow in more ways than we think we can. And before we're ready, and, all of those things are usually going on at once for ourselves. Okay, I'm just going to look at a few more tarot cards for you, group one. So another king. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's time for you to evolve into that king energy again, regardless of your gender, but this is very clear. It's time for you to up level your life. And so whatever ways you're trying to be small and hide yourself, don't do that anymore. Okay, so we have the Ace of Pentacles, King of Pentacles, and Knight of Cups. So again, very clear progression, right? Like, I feel like I'm here. I don't know anything. I don't have that much abundance. I don't have that much trust in myself or abilities to do these things. into this one. Okay, so you have to take action, you have to keep going. And the way to do that, again, another night here, we had a few nights come out also in your reading. Slow and steady wins the race, you know, like being consistent in these things is what's going to push you to grow and change to this next level. You can't grow and change if you stay in your comfort zone, if you don't challenge yourself, if you don't, you know, whatever. Like, I know we talk about having a life of ease and a life of this, but that doesn't mean that we don't challenge ourselves or push ourselves to grow and change also. So this is very, I mean, again, another king. I think you got three of the four kings, group one, with your stuff today. So yes, it's time for you to up level your life. Even if you don't feel like it, even if you're scared, especially when you're scared, that usually means it's time to do it. Okay, I'm gonna look at a few oracle cards for you. Let go and surrender. Yeah, so this is just, you know, everyone's favorite advice, let go and surrender, right? It really is just about letting go and surrendering. And when it's time for you to grow and change, to push yourself to do these things differently, right? There's nothing you can do that can make you, you know, when God says it's time, it's time. And there's nothing you can do to make yourself not ready, to not be able to handle it, to not whatever, you know, even when it seems so challenging. It's just about letting go and surrendering and being like, okay, God brought me to this, so it's time for me to grow into this, even if I really have no idea how that's going to happen right now. It's letting go and surrendering. And that can also be trusting your growth, you know. Sometimes we'd be like, whoa, who am I turning into? Who am I becoming? This is a totally different person than I'm used to myself being as, right? But when we can accept that, and when we can kind of not try to micromanage our growth, right? And instead surrender to it and let it happen how it needs to happen, that's when, you know, God's plan can kind of become manifest in our lives, because we're not trying to like micromanage and be like, oh, I can only grow in this way, or I can only change in this way. Okay. Drop it. Okay, so again, this is exactly what I was talking about, of just, you know, you have to let go of your preconceived notions of how things need to be, of what you want them to be, of, you know, any and all of that stuff. You have to drop it. God's in charge, not us, which when things are going the way we like, we're happy. When it's not going the way we want, we're not happy. Okay, but you have to drop it. You have to let go of some of these preconceived notions, or it has to be this, and this way, right? I'm going to close with one affirmation card for you guys, group one. When I focus on my inner light, I see the world through the lens of love. Yeah, so again, I think just this is, you know, this fear of I can't grow and change. I don't know what's next to me. I don't want to do this, right? But when you remember that like God is with you and God is your inner light and God is guiding you to do all these things, it's easier to take action. It's easier to move forward. When you remember like who is holding the next day for you, God, it's easier to be like, okay, I can trust this path. I can trust the unfolding. I can do all of that, right? So when you focus on your inner light, you focus on, okay, I trust my growth. I trust what I'm here to do. I trust that God is like with me and taking care of me. It's easier to kind of move forward and do all of that. Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is for everyone who picked group number 2. So you all picked the card Deep Replenishment, Retreat, Rest, Be Held. So yeah, I think, like it says, it's time to rest. It's time to have replenishment. It's time to turn inward. If water resonates for you, if you are by a body of water, maybe just spending time there. If you want to give some flowers as an offering, that's always nice. But, you know, when we think about growth, and because of our capitalistic world we live in, and because of the, you know, hustle mindset and make something happen and all of that, right? It's so easy for us to forget that we have cycles as humans, instead of just like, oh, I'm this robot that can keep going in all these ways, right? That's usually not how it works. Okay, when we do that, we tend to burn ourselves out. We get you know, we lose our enchantment with life. We get disillusioned, right? So a lot of these things, this can be a reminder that, you know, resting is important, and replenishing ourselves and being held, that can be held by God, by nature, by someone who loves and cares about us, right? But all of these things are a reminder that they are important. If we want to be able to have one, we have to have the other, right? So if we want to be able to grow, move forward, change things, make something happen, take action, be able to do all of that, then we also have to know what the other side feels like, which is like resting, turning inward, caring for ourselves, being nurturing, being kind, being gentle. And it's like, oh well, so we place so much of our value and our ability to say we're successful on doing things, right? Like, oh, I took this trip, I got this job, I made this thing, I did all of that, right? But actually, so much success is also being in tune with our bodies and knowing, okay, I needed to sleep a little bit more, or this was like a year I rested, or this was a time that I really replenished and like got rid of some of these old ideas and energy in my body that I didn't need to carry anymore, right? We tend to overlook those things and we tend to just say like, oh, well, I was successful because I did all these things, or I made this thing happening, or I was moving, or I was whatever, right? But actually, like, being able to slow down, replenish yourselves, rest, hold ourselves with that. I think it's such an underrated way we can take care of ourselves because we're so focused on all these things outside of us. And so, yes, deep replenishment, retreat, rest, be held, just, taking time for ourselves, breathing, being gentle, going slow, saying no to things, having boundaries, right? All of that is when we're able to do that. That's again when we can flow, we can have these flow states of things instead of just like, oh, I'm this robot that does this, this, and this, right? You're not a robot. You're a human. You have cycles, you have changes, even just thinking about the moon, thinking about a garden, thinking about seasons, right? All of these things, there's a time for resting and a time for growing. There's a time for stillness and a time for movement. And if we don't do that, then we throw ourselves off balance. So group 2, just really saying like, what's my resistance to resting? What's my resistance to, just accepting that this is a period of my life or however long it is that I, do a little bit more of this or that, right? So retreating, resting, being held, replenishing ourselves, like why don't I find that valuable? Why don't I think it's valuable for me to take care of myself in those ways? Why do I not think it's valuable for me to, be gentle and go easy on myself and just be really kind and compassionate, even like hug myself and, all of these things. Like what's the resistance there? There's no right or wrong answers. It's just, worth exploring. Okay, I'm gonna look at some tarot for you. Yeah, you gotta take care of your inner child. Okay, group 2, we have the 7 of Swords, 6 of Cups, and Judgment. So this is the card of inner conflict to me. This person's like about to fall off the cliff. They don't even have the right shoes on, right? Matching shoes. And there's no one in here. There's no one there. Like, who are you fighting? What are you resisting? Where is this like thing where you have to be on the defense, or what I was just talking about of like you didn't learn ever to just like rest and relax? Where'd you learn that from? Why are you still keeping that up? Why are you creating that dynamic for yourself still when a lot of times we carry these dynamics and no one around us is reinforcing that? It's just something we learned and we don't even realize, and we just keep doing that. So why are you doing this for yourself? Because your inner child wants to rest, they want to play, they want replenishment, they want gentleness, they want ease, they want care, all of that. You don't have to be fight or flight all the time. You don't have to do all these things that are just so intense for your body all the time. You can't have that, because the Judgment, eventually, like I was just saying, eventually it comes down to you are the one recreating the dynamic and people around you aren't anymore. And even if that's not to, if someone is, trust yourself with that. Okay, I'm just a lady reading tarot on the internet, right? But this is a reminder that, it's like when push comes to shove, we have to be accountable and be like, what am I creating in my life? Like, what dynamic am I used to doing that I don't need to be perpetuating anymore? It's no judgment. It happens to all of us. I wake up to those things I've been doing to myself all the time. But it's just like, okay, I thought I had to do this, this, and this, but I don't actually have to anymore. I can let it go. I don't have to, play this role of this certain thing anymore. I don't have to, be this certain way before. I don't have to, whatever it is for you. But just looking at what are the ways that, especially with this card coming out first, just looking the ways of like, what's my resistance to resting, to retreating, to being held, to having replenishment, just really investigating that for yourself and just, holding yourself accountable to like, do I need to keep perpetuating certain stories? Do I need to keep doing these certain things over and over again when like they're clearly not helping me and they probably could be harming me, right? If no one's making you do these things, then why are you still doing them? And it's learned, like it's not a judgment thing, but it's just, why do you still feel the need to have to do those things? Can you let yourself be free? Can you have a new story? Can you have a new pattern? Yeah, you have choices, okay? This is exactly what I'm talking about, okay? So you have the 10 of Cups, 3 of Wands, and 7 of Cups. So, this is possible for you, right? We started your reading. You can go from this to this, right? You don't have to fight anymore. You can cease fighting, you can cease reacting, you can cease, all this. You can have emotional fulfillment, you can have inner peace, right? It does take work to look at ourselves and be like, okay, how am I contributing to this? Where am I judging people? Where am I reacting? Where am I whatever, right? Where are my boundaries not good? So you do have to be accountable, but that is possible. And there are plenty of ways to get there. Okay. So this is, to me, both of these cards, we can see there's contemplation here, there's options, there's choices, right? So to me, this is just really saying like you have the blueprint and the choice of what you want to do and how you want to do it. So what do I want to choose for myself? What's the path I want to go? How do I want to speak to other people? How do I want to speak to myself? Do I want to let myself rest? Do I want to take a break from this? Do I want to unplug from this game that I was playing? Do I want to, I don't know, what worked for you, what resonates for you. But this is just a reminder that you do not need to keep perpetuating these things once you realize they're not working, right? This isn't judgment of like we outgrow things all the time and we don't even realize that we've outgrown them. But once we are aware of it, it is just being about like, okay, what do I want to stop doing in my life, right? Eventually, especially when we're grown, we have to be the ones to be like, okay, this is not a thing I'm going to intentionally keep recreating or contributing into my life anymore. So where do I want to plug? Where do I want to stop playing the game? Where do I want to, stop doing all of that? All of that is coming through pretty strongly and clearly. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah, we'll just look at a few more tarot cards for you. Group 2. Yeah, I mean, you need to rest, okay? I mean, this is the card that you were burned out. Okay, so 10 of Swords. This could be about your whole life. It could just be in one particular instance. It could be in relationships. It could be in your relationship with yourself. It could be in your work. It could be in, I don't know, right? But there is some burnout somewhere going on in your life, right? Something you've been doing, you've been hitting a wall, it is not working. You are trying to shove your way through. It's not working. Here's a reminder, it's not going to work again. No matter how many times you try, it's not going to work. Okay. But what is on the other side of that is this beautiful sun. So we have the 10 of Swords, the Sun, and then the Queen of Cups, right? So this is beautiful, like rebirth energy, being reborn, choosing something different. Especially we're in August now, so this like new rebirth energy here, and just what it means to like when we rest, sometimes there's like a rebirth that happens, and there's like a new version of ourselves that gets born, and it's painful, messy, and annoying. We're not going to romanticize this year, right? But when you come out on the other side, it is so freeing of just like, oh my God, like the door is closed. So you can go somewhere different. Okay. Thank God God closes doors for us. And thank God we get to rest and recalibrate and do all that while the way opens up for us. So we can be ready to go that way once it's time. And this Queen of Cups here is like emotional mastery. And so just trusting that even if you're in a new way or a new path, you can and do have the emotional intelligence to be able to figure it out, to be able to go, to be able to, do all of those things for yourself in that way, instead of just being like, oh, I can't do it. Like, I don't know, I can't go this way because it's different or it's new or I'm not skilled enough, right? No, that's true. This is just a reminder that you can and do know how to do it. And rebirth is, it takes some time, and it takes some time to get your footing once you're reborn and all of that, but you can trust your ability to handle that and to grow and change and to, you know, the rest you give yourself will help you when it's time for you to go and move forward and continue along. Okay, I'm going to look at some oracle cards for you, group 2, before we close your reading. Be patient. Okay, so yeah, so I feel like this is part of why we're resistant to rest, is because we don't want to be patient, right? We're like, well, I don't want to rest. I just want to have the energy so I can go and do these things, right? Especially if you're a type A. I'm a recovering type A, so hello out there. That's you too, right? But we can just be like, oh, I don't want to rest because I just want to go. I just want to move on with my life. I want to get to the next thing. I want to whatever, right? But when we're resting, it's really important for us to build that relationship with ourselves, to be introspective, to be still, right? We think like, okay, I meditated for 10 minutes, but if we're going for 23 hours of the day, besides a little bit of time, how much like actual reflection are we doing? And so rest can be a great gift to ourselves, not only for the rest and rejuvenation we give to ourselves, but for the way that we're able to kind of tune inward and hear ourselves and connect to that energy in a way that, like, when we're busy with the day-to-day of life, we just can't. So be patient with your process, trust your body. Our bodies are smarter than us. They know what they're doing. They're trying to do things. They're trying to protect us. They're trying to take care of us. So be patient is a reminder, that you have to trust the process. You have to surrender. There are forces that are in control way more than we are. And just, again, resting and being held and doing replenishment and being patient through that process will pay off. And here's the other thing. If you try to cut that short, you try to get to the other side, you're going to have to do that eventually, right? You can't can't trick your body into never resting. It needs to rest. Okay. So if you try to cut corners now, you're going to have to deal with that in the future later. Even if you, even if you think like, oh, haha, look, I'm back, I'm going, I'm whatever, right? And the burnout might even be worse then because you didn't let yourself like deal with it now. Embrace the new dawn. Okay. So yeah, so this is really beautiful. And we just had the sun card, which also has a sun on it. And it's Leo season, so very nice. Okay, but so embrace the new dawn. Just remember there is a new day, there is a rebirth, there is something that is coming that, when God makes you wait, prepare to have more than what you prayed for, right? Or when the day comes, when it's finally time to keep going, we'll be so grateful that, what we learned while we're waiting was absolutely necessary for us to be a match and for us to keep going along the path to that. So embrace the new dawn. Okay, I'm going to close with one oracle card for you guys, or one affirmation card. I already was doing oracle cards. An affirmation card. This one flew out. When I lean toward love, I am led. Okay, so for me personally, I would say God here. When I lean toward God, I am led, but you can say the universe, love, whatever language feels good for you. But again, this is just like, you have to surrender to the process, and you have to surrender to when God tells you to rest, to when God says it's not time, to when God says you need to take a break. You can keep going, right? But like, nothing happens until God says it's time. And so if you've been pushing and pushing and pushing, this isn't telling you to give up or to stop or to do any of that, but this is saying, being led sometimes means something doesn't happen for a while. It doesn't mean it's never going to happen, but it's just like, you're not in control. God is in control. So when you lean towards God, then we are led and we can surrender and we can have peace. And, it reminds me of that Course in Miracles quote that those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait and wait without anxiety. And so when you know that this rest and replenishment and care you give yourself is going to be worth it in so many ways, then it's easier to be led. It's easier to let go. It's easier to surrender, right? All of those things. So when I lead toward God, I am led. That's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hi everyone, welcome. It's for everyone who picked group number 3. So you'll pick the card Boundaries. Where do you need to establish better boundaries? So I just love the imagery on this card, right? This person's like kind of like pushing all the hands out of people who want to grab. They want, give me this, right? So sometimes when we grow and change, we focus on like, okay, I'm going to be a person now who, whatever growth you did for yourself. Let's say the growth you did for yourself is, I established this new routine, or I'm doing this other thing in my life, or I'm whatever, right? And when we do that, we can be really focused on our growth and what we're changing into, that we forget to be like, oh my God, I grew and changed. And so I need to upgrade my boundaries as well. And so if nothing's coming to your mind about like, where do I need to establish better boundaries? Maybe it is. If it is, go with that, right? But think about what's an area of my life that I've grown in recently, right? Like maybe I'm taking my this things I want to create more seriously. Maybe I'm having better standards in my dating life. Maybe I'm, being more clear about my health, my physical, mental health. And so when we do that, then it's like, okay, so these are the actions I'm doing differently. And then what boundaries do I need to have to create that framework to protect that, right? Boundaries are not about controlling someone or manipulating someone or getting the outcome we want, right? Someone or something, but they are about tuning inward and then just being like, okay, what framework do I need to be able to do what I want to do for these areas of my life? And so again, a lot of times, we grow and we change and we're focused on our goals, but we forget to include our boundaries with that, right? And like this card is just a really good imagery of like if we don't have clear boundaries and clear like this is what I'm not saying, or this is what I'm saying no to, this is what I'm not saying yes to, right? Then we'll just say yes to anything and things will slide with all of that. And, a lot of times it's not about like, what are we going to say yes to, but the peace and clarity and leveling up of our life comes when we know what we want to say no to more often than yes, right? Like if we just say yes to everything, then we don't really have that much clarity, right? But this is just a reminder that we are capable and able to say, if we know what we want to say no to, then it's easier to find the things that are a yes for us, right? So for example, if you're trying to date and you're like, well, I want to say yes to this, but then a thing comes and you're like, oh, I hadn't considered if that's a no for me or not, right? If you don't know what's a no, then you'll never be able to like grow and change and get more clarity around that. So, looking at these boundaries, it could just be like an area of our life where I'm laughing because it's relatable content, what I'm about to say, okay? Not laughing at you. But an area of your life where you're like, wow, I thought I learned this lesson 20 million times and here I am. Probably need to look at some boundary stuff, right? And it doesn't mean that something's your fault. It could just be around like, oh, I need to be kinder to myself. I need to be more understanding. I need to be, whatever, right? So boundaries can also be about what stories about ourselves we decide to not let in, right? So it could be something of like, I'm I don't need to like be mean to myself, or I don't need to tell a negative story about myself because of someone else's behavior, because of this uncontrollable thing that happened to me, right? Boundaries can also be the way that we speak and think about ourselves as well. Okay, I'm going to start with some tarot cards for you. Yeah, I mean, it's you're up there, group 3, you're moving up there. So what are you going to do to hold that status for yourself, right? So you have the 9 of Pentacles, the Emperor, and the Queen of Wands. So 3 people here who are very clear, very solid, very sturdy in who they are, right? Just kind of like, yeah, here I am. What about it, right? But so this is, to me, this energy is giving like royalty. It's giving like, these are my standards. This is what I want for myself. This is how I envision my life. And so again, this question of, well, what am I doing to create that for myself, right? If you say, like I'm someone who knows what I want and knows what I say yes to, knows what I say no to. Am I doing that in my life? Do I have a list? Do I know what feels like a yes for me, what feels like a no for me? Am I intentional about how I spend my time, about the people I let into my life, about what I'm doing with my time even, right? So all of these people have clear boundaries and clarity and willingness to just be like, this is a no for me. I don't feel guilty about it. It's just a no. It's not going to work for me. So again, really tapping into that energy of like, you have this up level vision and energy for yourself. So what are you doing to uphold that? What are you doing? Do your boundaries match the standards you want to have for yourself? And if not, what are you doing to challenge that? Are you turning inward? Are you getting more clarity? Are you, like it's important for you to honor that and look at that if you want to, get to the other side and be able to actually, create that framework for yourself. And that takes boundaries and also reinforcing the boundaries. And when someone tries to challenge that, you say, no, this is my boundary. Or you don't just like, when you get pushback on something, that's it's like, okay, how serious about it are you? If that's what you keep, you're like, oh no, this is my boundary. But then like, it gets blown over with one blow of the wind. It's like, well, are those your boundaries, or is that just what you wish your boundaries were, right? So how can you be accountable to yourself to uphold those boundaries instead of just saying, oh, this is my boundary, but not doing the work to implement it or uphold it? Because the thing with boundaries is it's usually so much more about us maintaining them than like saying it once, right? And then once we get good at it, we don't really think about it anymore, right? But when we're first building that boundary and building the muscle, we really have to challenge ourselves and push ourselves to make sure we are living in integrity and in accordance with those boundaries and upkeeping them and really saying no and really putting our foot down and really, doing all of that instead of just, saying it once and you're like, oh, didn't work. It's like, well, didn't work because you didn't really reinforce it for yourself. Okay, so no judgment. Okay, it takes time and practice, but it's worth it. Yeah, you have to let go to gain, okay? That's really what I'm hearing with these. So we have the Four of Cups, Five of Cups, and Nine of Cups. Lots of emotions, okay? So maybe setting boundaries is really emotional for some reason for you. Maybe you set a boundary and it was crossed, or maybe you don't feel like you're worthy of setting boundaries, or maybe, you're like, I don't even know what I want. That's okay. We all have to start somewhere. So don't judge yourself if that's the place you're at right now, right? But this is like contemplating and knowing that there is more and better for you than whatever's going on in your life right now, right? There is there is growth, there is peace, there are all these things are available to you, right? And sometimes that takes mourning, like all the times we didn't show up for ourselves, all the times that we accepted the crumbs, all the times that we, whatever. And you don't have to judge yourself for it, right? Because we all do the best we can. We all are trying our best. We all, all of this, but it can be really painful to realize like, oh, I need to, sometimes it's like, okay. Sometimes we can be like, okay, it's time for me to set a boundary and up level my life. But then you have to be like, oh my God, but like just the realization of like, this is all the things I've been accepting or saying yes to this whole time. It's so embarrassing. It feels so bad. It's so upsetting. I can't believe I did that to myself, right? So if any of that is in there, you can just there's plenty of self-compassion meditations on YouTube. You can write yourself a forgiveness letter. You can give yourself a hug. You can say, I love you. You were doing a good job. I'm proud of you. We're getting there, right? Because on the other side of all that is this fulfillment, right? Is this your wishes coming true? This clarity around that, just feeling clear with this. So it is a process to have to mourn the ways that we didn't show up for ourselves, or even if you were very young, right? The ways we weren't protected or the unhealthy stories we learned. That's really painful to sit and hold too, because it's like, I deserve so much better than that. And so if there is some emotions coming up, a lot of times when we, like I was saying, when we do have to set new boundaries, we really have to unfortunately look at the ways that our boundaries were not honored, or we didn't have boundaries, or we weren't allowed to, or whatever it is before. And just being really really kind and gentle to yourself with that. It's a hard emotional process, but knowing that if you feel the urge to up level your life, you will. The emotional work you do to get there will, it's never in vain. It will pay off. It will be worth it. You just have to keep going even when it feels like really uncomfortable. But yeah, let yourself have your mourning and your grief process if you need to for all of that. Okay, I'm just gonna pick a few more tarot cards for you. Group three. Okay, so we have the Six of Pentacles, the Four of Wands, and the Hangman. Yeah, so I mean, this is here for you if you want it, right? So, um, I think you really need to balance giving and receiving. So maybe your boundaries can be, some of us are really, really good at giving, but we're really bad at receiving, or we're really good at receiving, but we're not the best at giving, right? So this is for me, like reads as like finding balance in that, and finding balance in like, what is like, where am I comfortable giving and where am I comfortable receiving? Why? What's going on with that? Finding balance with that, because that is how you're going to get to like this peace and serenity in this next level of your life, right? We are, no matter what capitalism tries to sell you, okay, we're individualistic culture. We are an interconnected species, and our lives run more smoothly and we feel more clear when we are you know, doing this giving and receiving energy with people. We all like to give, we all like to receive, or it's important for our soul to be able to do that, right? So being an island, being siloed, none of that is actually going to help you long term. And the longer you do that, the more you're going to play yourself here, right? This hangman, to me, the hangman is like, letting go of illusions and stop playing yourself and all that. And so if you want to really give and receive and you want to have better boundaries, then you need to practice doing that. It's not about taking advantage of people. It's not about being taken advantage of, but it is about, checking in and just being like, okay, where is that flow off for me? Because a lot of times when that flow is off, it affects a lot of different areas of our lives. So, where could I receive a little bit more? Where can I give a little bit more? And again, looking at this boundaries question of, what where am I where am I not being honest with myself of like a boundary I do need to set in order to move and to move forward with that. Okay, and then I'm gonna look at some oracle cards for you, group three, to close out your reading. Give yourself the best. So yeah, so I think this is a question of, am I worth it? Can I have these boundaries? Can I up level my life? This is definitely saying, yes, you can. Okay. This is saying that, you are able to, just because if you're the first person to doing it, maybe you have guilt, maybe you don't have the blueprint, maybe you have whatever, right? But you know in your heart that there is something in your life that it's time for you to move to the next level. Otherwise, you wouldn't be however many minutes long into this reading with me, right? But give yourself the best as a reminder that you can upgrade your life, you can have standards, you can have boundaries, you can have this framework that feels peaceful and good and like a match for your soul and what you deserve. So give yourself the best. And giving yourself the best starts with, being clear about what you will and will not tolerate or allow in your life. If you let anything into your life, then you're probably not going to feel the best, right? But giving yourself the best is about being intentional with what you say yes and what you say no to. Dreams come true. Yeah. So again, more of the same energy, right? Of just like, in your heart what feels good, what feels resonant, what you want to do, what you want to change, how you want to do all of that, right? Dreams come true. They do come true, but we have to do our part, right? Your dream isn't going to come true if you're like, I want this amazing love, beautiful relationship, but you're not doing any of your own inner work and you're just entertaining whoever comes in who's like not super serious, you're not looking for this or whatever, right? So dreams do come true, but we have to do our part and we have to set up the boundaries and again, the standards and the frameworks to be able to allow those things to come forward. So I feel like group 3, there's a lot of messaging in your reading here about like, where did I feel like I didn't have a choice or I couldn't do anything, but I actually could be doing it. And again, not in a judgmental way, right? But just like getting more clarity, wading through that stuff, seeing what we're allowing and not allowing. Um, when we actually could just be like, oh, I was allowing this and I don't have to anymore. And I can say no and move on with my life. And there we go. Right. So dreams come true. But we have to do our part to make that happen. Okay, I'm going to close with one affirmation card for you. Attack, pain, fear, judgment, any form of separation are merely calls for help. So I think this is just a reminder, the shadow side of setting boundaries. Okay, so like if you set a boundary and you're like, oh my God, people are judging me, or oh my God, I'm so scared if I set this boundary, or this boundary is so painful, right? So we saw this in the cards when we had the 4 and 5 of Cups come out. It's just a reminder that, if it's emotional, like you're probably healing something or looking at something or doing something like a younger version of you really needed or wanted. So when those feelings come up, just remember that like that's just something in you. It could be old, it could be new, it could be present, right? But it's just a reminder that you can soothe yourself, and setting boundaries is an expression of how much we love and care about ourselves. And if we weren't really loving and caring about ourselves in like a clear, kind, like standard way, a high standard way, which no judgment, again, we all have to learn these things. When we actually do that, sometimes it can be painful because it's like, oh my God, I wasn't, like I said in the beginning, oh my God, I wasn't taking care of myself this whole time. That's so sad. It's allowed to be sad. You can have the process, you can mourn it, right? But don't remember, like if these feelings come up, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong or you're on the wrong path. It's just a normal part of things coming up and changing as you continue to grow and choose the things that actually are for you. So again, sometimes people think like, oh, this feels bad, so this can't be right for me, right? But actually when we are on the path, like we purge a lot of these feelings and we feel them for the first time. And that's actually a sign that like, I am doing the right thing. I am on the right path. I am making things happen for myself. Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.